evening, everyone. It's my pleasure, privilege to be here tonight. So I'll present on some slides. I laughed when I was described as non-partisan. My comment to Monique, I'm very partisan. I'll work with any politician that accepts and acts on the climate science. I won't bother wasting my time trying to talk to someone who is paid to ignore the science and ignore intergenerational equity. Everything I do is predicated. I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, I'm a reformed investment banker. I talk to what the insurance industry has been telling us for 40, 45, 50 years is happening, and at the end of the day, the smartest actuaries in the world stand by what the scientists are telling us, and that is that we've now had 12 of the 12 hottest years in record. We're also a public interest think tank, no government funding, no corporate funding, we do no paid advisory, and I'm not paid by the Chinese government either, but I am going to challenge your thinking. If you haven't heard me talk before, I will talk very positively about China. It's where I actually get my inspiration from. At the end of the day, the climate science is clear, it is a climate crisis, but we do have the solutions at the scale and at the costs and at the technology readiness to solve for the climate science. We just need other countries to emulate what China's already doing. I am from finance. I do look at things from a finance perspective. The world invested last year, according to the Bloomberg New Energy Finance, $2.3 trillion was invested in decarbonisation, electrification of our energy system around the world. 2.3 trillion is a lot of money. It is growing. It's been growing for the last decade. And it is double the investment, the expenditure. I don't like calling buying oil every day or buying coal, the fuel to run your coal plant. That's not an investment, that's an expense, whereas this is an investment each and every year in wind, solar, batteries, EVs, grid. Bloomberg estimates that if we're to solve for the climate science, the world needs to double or triple the amount of annual investment. So we need to be spending 5, 6, 7 trillion US dollars each and every year. The money is absolutely there. I'm from finance. If you have the right price signal, if you have the right incentives, finance can solve for this. We can do it using technologies that exist today, thanks to China, as I mentioned. Just to reinforce why I'm saying that about China, I know they're a totalitarian state. I know democracy is flawed form of government, but it's far better than any other type of government. Where our democracy is failing is that our politicians at the federal level have to get re-elected every 2.5, 3 years. China doesn't have that problem. They have clarity of where they're going for the next 10, 20 years. You can read it in their 5-year plans, and they deliver on it. They don't have to worry about debate. I started investing in global clean tech solutions 20 years ago. We're investing in Europe, in America, and by the time we'd finished 2 or 3 years of investing, we had a quarter of the portfolio in China, and it was because China was already 20 years ago leading the world. And what the company's CEOs were telling me each and every day, every time I met with them, it was profound back then, and 20 years later, they've exceeded every target they set. The world last year invested huge amounts of renewables, but the chart on the right is China. That's to scale. China is 2/3 of the world's investment in renewable energy last year. Now, this would be totally off track if it wasn't for China when it comes to wind and solar. It is unbelievable the scale of what China is doing, and the only way you can do it is actually go and see it firsthand. I'd love all of our politicians at the federal level to go to China and actually see it, because it's the only way you can really believe it, that it is absolutely a national mission for China to dominate every zero emissions industry of the future. Now, domination is a strong word, but that's what they do. Now, that's got geopolitical problems, but let's bear in mind, they're our #1 trade partner. So do we really want to fight with our #1 trade partner, or do we want to embrace and work with them and collaborate with them? But regardless of what we do, they're going to move, they're going to decarbonise, and if anything, Trump's war on Iran has reinforced their 20-year strategy is absolutely on the money. It's all about energy security, energy independence, and industry dominance, and investment, and jobs, and exports, and saving the planet, and air pollution. It's all of those things. But self-interest is a powerful motive, and China's absolutely shown it for 20 years. This is China dominating the world in terms of electric vehicle sales. So sure, they're the #1 exporter of EVs in the world, but they also are the #1 buyer of EVs in the world. They got the best charging infrastructure. They got the best battery swapping technology. Now, sure, their population density is multiples of Australia's. We need Australian solutions for Australian problems. They've got a high population density, so they're leading the world, and they're doing it at China speed, China scale. Red is China. The rest of the world is less than what China is doing, one country. This is batteries, my favourite topic at the moment, because batteries are turbocharging solar. And this is a chart showing who installed energy storage systems, the most in the world in 2025, China. The battery installs in the world are going to double, double and double again. We can see that, we all know it in Australia thanks to the home battery scheme. There's been a huge success for the rich half of Australia and a huge success for energy prices in the middle of a war in the Middle East. Look at the red. China's forecast to be 50% of the world's battery installs each and every year, and they're going to grow at 50% per annum. This is from McKinsey at the start of this year. This is China. They dominate the entire battery supply chain, from processing, refining, to cathodes, to anodes, to cells. I often get asked about recycling. China does 80% of the world's battery recycling today. 80% of the world. Europe's actually banning the export of black mass battery recycling material because they want to develop their own recycling industry, but China's paying too much for European black mass. Again, think about it from Australia's perspective. China is trying to diversify away from their over-reliance on Australian critical minerals, because Australia is not a military ally of China. China feels vulnerable to Australia. Anyone that thinks of China as being really low ESG standards, no country's perfect, I get that, but China's the biggest recycler in the world. They're the biggest scrap recycler in the world. They've got more electric arc furnaces than America. They are leading this, and they're doing it for national security, national independence. That is China investing in saving the planet and dominating the industries of the future. That's McKinsey, don't take my word for it. Who's the biggest beneficiary of Trump's invasion of Iran? It was meant to undermine China. Why? Because America's the biggest fossil fuel producer in the world. Trump cheered the day he invaded Iran because he pushed up the price of oil, and Exxon and Mobil and Chevron made a huge amount of extra profits, like triple the profits overnight thanks to Trump's invasion. It wasn't very well thought through, of course, it's Trump, but China's the biggest beneficiary. China's now exporting $25 billion a month of batteries, solar and EVs. China EV sales, I did a post on it yesterday. BYD's EV sales in May were up 80% year on year. The top 4 EV exporters in China are up 50 to 80% year on year in the month of May. And this is solar and batteries combined. So this is Ember tracking the data on a monthly basis. And so China exports more clean tech than America does export fossil fuels. So the beauty of this is that China is sharing its gift to the world, and everyone's now embracing it other than America. I'll now move to Australia. We are a laggard in many respects. No surprise, we're the 3rd largest fossil fuel export nation in the world. Woodside, Santos, Chevron, Exxon, Impex of Japan, they don't want Australia to move and embrace decarbonisation, but the good news is we're doing it anyway. And in some respects, we are a world leader, and we need to accelerate that. We need to talk about the opportunities, how Australia can lead the world. We do lead the world in many of these areas. This chart's about batteries. Australia led the world with the Tesla Hornsdale battery reserve down in South Australia. That was only 8 years ago. That was the biggest battery in the world by a mile, and it was 100 megawatt hours. That's a rounding error compared to the 10 biggest batteries Australia's building concurrently right now, which are all in the gigawatt hours. I think we just turned on a 2.8 gigawatt hour battery up in my neck of the woods. It was called the Waratah Super Battery because it was the biggest battery in the world when it was announced, but now we're building 10 of them at the same time, all as big. You only have to read the AFR today. The CEO of Snowy Hydro was saying Angus Taylor approved a diesel-fired gas peaking power plant for Snowy about 6 years ago, and now the CEO of Snowy doesn't want to turn it on because A, it runs on diesel, and diesel's bloody expensive, let alone the emissions. B, there's no gas connection because Angus didn't worry about the gas. C, he goes, I'd be losing money if I turned it on. I don't really want to turn it on. That's the AFR today, he admits that. Why? Because 8 years ago when the Tesla Hornsdale battery reserve was turned on, it was a 1 hour battery. Australia is currently running 2-hour batteries, but all the big batteries being built today are 4 hours in Australia. So within 2 years, they'll all be operational and the average duration will be 4 hours. So that's right, the sun sets predictably almost every day, but we can now get 4 hours of battery into the evening peak if you don't own your own home and have a home battery, thanks to Chris Bowen. Australia and New South Wales, Penny Sharp is leading the world, rolling out 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour battery durations with private industry, thanks to New South Wales leadership. It's the first state in the world to be doing 10 to 12-hour batteries, 8 to 10 hours. I'll wrap it up again. Home battery scheme, in 11 months, we've done 11.4 gigawatt hours. This is beyond anything even Minister Bowen thought was possible. Australians are voting with their own dollars. We need to make sure we bring 100% of Australia along, not just the top half that owns your own home and doesn't live in an apartment and doesn't rent or doesn't live in public housing. Right, this home battery scheme is very biased towards the top half, including me. I own my own home. I've got a big battery thanks to Minister Bowen, but it's my children who are all renting. It's all of your children who are renting. We need to solve it for them. Even the AFR had to recognise that record batteries are today driving down power prices materially. The AFR, the Australian Fossil Fuel Review, having to recognise that batteries are driving deflation for renters, for everyone in Australia. The trickle down, we've got to make sure there are more specific programs to solve for renters and apartment dwellers and strata. On the 1st of July, your prices across Victoria down 3 to 5%, and I'll emphasise down 3 to 5% in the middle of another fossil fuel war in the Middle East. 2022, Putin invaded Ukraine, coal prices went through the roof, gas prices went through the roof, oil prices went through the roof, Australian energy prices went through the roof, Australian electricity prices went through the roof. Fast forward 4 years, our electricity prices, our gas prices are down. We are actually getting there, and the difference is renewable energy and batteries. And for once, the gas cartel is actually worrying about Minister Bowen's gas reserve. He's got a bloody big stick, and for once they're acting sensibly. First time in 12 years. Our final point, we've got the Safeguard Mechanism review. Australia 12 years ago had the right policy. We led the world. We had a big carbon price. Tony Abbott rejoiced about removing it. We have a carbon price by stealth. It's called the Safeguard Mechanism. It's the ACCU, the Australian Carbon Credit Unit. We need carbon pricing. And if you don't do it because you don't think Australia needs it, know that China is moving at world leadership in carbon pricing. They've just expanded the world's biggest emissions trading scheme by 50%. That'll be fully implemented by the end of next year. They're getting ready so that China can continue to export to Europe, because Europe's now got a carbon border adjustment mechanism, and China wants to keep trading with the rest of the world other than America, and so they're going to respond. They are driving this. They're the best position to do it. And who's our number one trade partner? It's China. We want to actually supply what they want in a decade's time, not what they're buying today. And they believe in decarbonisation. Their whole economy is geared to it. We need to align with our economic interest, our export interests. We need a price on carbon domestically so that we can prepare when China implements a price on carbon in either China or Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand jump on board, and it becomes an Asian price on carbon. We're a long way from it, but the Safeguard Mechanism review is a key policy initiative. We've got to give the government more spine to make sure that we lift the quality of the emissions trading scheme we've got, but it's moving us in the right direction so that we're aligning with our key trade partners. Thank you.